Okay, so today, obviously we're doing a quiz on chapter 2.2 to start off with, and then we're going to get into, we're going to finish up chapter 4.1 and get into chapter 4.2 and 4.3. Probably the ors and ands. Today you have your first, so you have your next Connect Math due. You have your first one due last night. You have your next one due today, Connect Math, the first one for chapter 2. And also the discussion board, introduce yourself, that part's due today. And then make sure that by Thursday, you respond to 3 other people. Three people, and 5 people you connect with, and you respond to theirs. Tomorrow, you have Connect Math, the other one for chapter 2 due. And then Thursday, you have the first Connect Math for chapter 4 due. After that, on Sunday, so Sunday you have another homework due. That's going to be 4.3. And then next Tuesday you'll have 4.4. Because your exam will be on next Thursday. So a week from Thursday is your first exam. And don't forget to do your Connect Math quizzes. Those are always due the day after each homework one is due. And again, it's only 2 problems. It's just 2 problems roughly from the homework. And so I would just knock them out right after you finish the homework. Just do the homework, do the quiz right away, and then you have to worry about it. It's just making sure you know how to do them without help buttons. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have next. Just as a quick reminder, Connect Math, we have these help things here. You have your textbook, right? Your e-textbook. E-text is there. And then you also have these really cool resources here. So I would click on the red resources and then go to videos. So like I mentioned last class, for every single chapter, every single section in each chapter, they have good videos to kind of show you stuff if you're unsure about it. So kind of puts you in pretty good shape. Quiz problem number 1. Following data is the age of students in a class. So the frequency distribution for 7 classes using class width of 5. Now, remember, your homework apparently kind of does things that weird way that we don't really like, where they will make you start your first lower class with whatever your lowest class limit is, right? And the homework will do that. There's nothing I can do about it except for change from them in the future, but you know, we're kind of stuck with them for now. But on the exam, I really want you to do what is done in real life, right? Do what they would actually do in the real world, which is they'd round down to the next 5. So the lowest number is 17. If I round it down to the lowest, the 5 below 17, what would that be? 15, right? So in the real world, people would start with 15. Your homework will start with 17 because their textbook, they're all caught up in the math, and they're just kind of messed up in that way, right? They're kind of so far dug into the math, they don't really see what's done in real life. So, so here, you guys would end up. So for here, you're going to have limits that start at 15, and then you're going to go down 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. After you do the limits, yeah, go ahead.
So does the 5 of the class width, is that why you're going 15, 20, or are you
Yes.
making it just because it's like nicer, you know, what we do in our life?
Both. So the class width is 5 because that's cleaner and nicer than what people do in the real world. So from class to class, that's a class width. So not from here to here, from here to here is a class width. So that's why we're adding 5 each time because 5 is our class width. If our class width was 10, we'd add 10. Okay, good. So then you're going to go back and you're going to figure out, well, what's the number that came before that? Find all your upper class limits. So 19, 24, 29, 34, 39, 44, and then I just add a class width to get to the next one. So if it goes 39, 44, the next one will be 49. Frequencies. Not sure if this is an order view. I thought it would be easier, huh? Others, yeah. So, is it 4? Yeah. And then here we've got 1, 7.
7.
Okay, with that. Next one.
4.
5 or 4. 5. Okay, next. 3. Next. 0. Next. 0. Next. 1. Okay, great. So then your relative frequencies will be, let's see, there are 20 of them. So 4 out of 20, right? 0.2, 0.35, 0.25, 0.15, 0, 0, and 0.05. Forget that. 5% is 0.05, not 0.5. Yeah. Yes.
So if the class width was like 7 or 6, where would you start, like for the whole number? Would you
Yeah.
start-
See, so the thing is, so does your homework have that?
I think so.
So then you start the lowest number.
Okay.
Yeah. If your homework has that, has a class width of 6 or 7, which email me when that happens because I need to probably delete that. It's probably too late at this point because it's due tomorrow. But yeah, go ahead.
Would that be on your exam?
So on the exams, I'm never going to have a class width of 5 on the exam. Ever. I mean 6. It'll never be 6 or 7. It would be 5 or it'd be 10. Right? But it would never be 6 or 7. The only class width that I'd have that be smaller might be a class width of like 2 or 3. But if you can get to 4, you can get to 5. Right? If you're, I mean, kind of, and you know, and 1 is good. A class width of 1 is great because then everybody has their own line. So there's not that many cases even where you might even have a class width of 2. You're probably pretty much going to have a class width of 3, 1, 3, or 5. Does that make any sense? Kind of, yeah. So that's how that works. If I had 10 or 11 items, I would probably just go class width of 1 to keep it that way. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay, yeah.
The class width is 3. Where would you want us to start then?
So class width of 3, then you can just start with the lowest number. Yeah, because then it's not going to be pretty no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So if class width is 3, then you just would start with whatever the lowest number is. And on your homework again, you'll do that same thing because the homework's weird and screwball-y, and that's how it is. Okay. Cumulative frequency. So cumulative again is adding up how many in that class or previous class. So the first one, there's 4 in that class, nothing in a previous class. Next one, 7 in that class plus 4 in the previous class, so it's 11. Next one, 5 in that class plus 11 previously, so it's 16, 19, it stays at 19, and the last one's 20. Okay. Perfect. All right, so then, quick reminder about histograms, right? The easiest way to do it is to use the boundaries along the bottom, and then they would touch, right? So then you go from one. So here are the class boundaries for each class. You go from one boundary to the next, whatever that frequency is. What you could also do is you could also just write the class limits below each one. And some people have done that instead, which is perfectly acceptable. Yeah. And I'll show you guys some different options. And we also talked about relative frequency graphs, right? So that's when histograms always have the heights as the frequencies or the relative frequencies, either one, depending on what you want to show and whatever your data is, right? If your data is relative frequencies, you can do it that way. If your data is kind of more frequencies, you can do it that way. They're basically identical graphs. The only difference is the y-axis. So if we take a look at our quiz problem number 2, I asked you guys to do a relative frequency histogram. You guys might not have noticed that. So we did want you to use relative frequencies along the sides. So let me grab a couple examples. Who did frequencies? Who's a pretty one? have yours. Okay. Looks like now it wasn't. You guys a nice one? Okay, that works. All right, so no one did all the frequency, just looks like, so that's okay. We'll just go with what we got.
We went through, I don't know, I think we did. We did, but I'll try.
Okay, so I'm gonna show this. Here's some things that are interesting. Okay. All right, good. So here's the first one. Oh, my bad. Hold on. Okay, here's the first one. So the relative frequency are along the side, and then you'll see it goes, the first guy, he's from 15 to 19, has a relative frequency of 0.2. So from, oh, that's a problem. Is it, yeah, switch to frequencies. Yeah, so they did frequencies to their relative frequencies. But from 14, they're from 15 to 19, so these are their boundaries. They have a frequency of 4. Does that everyone kind of follow? And then from 20 to 29, boundaries are 19.5 to 24.5. There's a frequency of 7. So that one went up to 7. 7 kind of follow. So this is kind of how you should have this part written out. The size of this marked. This is what a lot of people are doing, which I have an issue with, which is, so 14.5, is that, I guess that's this line? So then you're saying from this line to that line? Or if it's right in the middle? We're not, you're saying that this is 14.5, and that's not correct. It's from 14.9 to 19, up to 19.9. So do you guys see the issue with this one? Okay.
So do the numbers need to be on the line?
The numbers need to line up. Say that again?
So do the numbers need to be on the line?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that this spot is 14.5. So you're saying that this whole thing is centered at 14.5 or is 14.5, and that's not right. So really, this is supposed to be 14.5, and this is supposed to be 19.5. Did you guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it should be from 14.9, this is 14.5, and that's 9.5. From there to there is where this is over. It's okay. Can folks see the difference now? Because you're saying that this is, if this is 14.5, that's 19.5, and this should be shifted over. This should go like here, like that. And it should be kind of right in there. Now, the other way, so thank you for that, because that's a super common error that most people make. The other one, what you can do is you could put your limits down below, and that's also totally acceptable. So she was like, I don't want to find my boundaries, I'm just going to write the limits. Totally fine too. So she write, you see 15 to 19, that's the class. It's centered right below the line. That's the label of the class, and that's the line. So I think that's what people are thinking, is they're like, well, I'll put the label of the class, and that's right below. You can totally do that. So if you're going to label, put the whole label, you can do it right below. Yes? Got it. Okay. So, okay. But if you want to do the, so here you notice they don't touch, right? Because this goes from 25 to 29, and then jumps from 29 to 30, right? And this one goes from 30 to 34. So see how those are? So if you're going to do it this way, they should not touch, and then you have your limits written right below whatever your block is. If you're going to have them touch, then you should use the boundaries. And again, then it would be one boundary to the next boundary. So this 15 to 19 goes from 15 19, right? 14.5 to 19.5. And that's the block where it is. Okay. Good. Thank you guys for those. So here's the thing. When is the time to make mistakes? In class or on the exam? In class. So that's why we're doing these in class. We're doing more of them so that it's good to make this mistake here because then you won't make it on the exam, which is what we're all about here. All right. Frequency polygons. These use the class midpoints, and so along the bottom are the midpoints, and then they use again for the heights they use the frequencies or the relative frequencies. What they do is they put a point, a dot, at the frequency above the midpoint, and then don't forget you anchor in the front and you anchor it in the back. So you make an imaginary class at the beginning and the end. The frequency of those classes has to be 0, right? Because there's nothing in there. And then you anchor them. You draw lines connecting them. Here, the relative frequency polygon. You'll see the only difference between these two things is the frequencies along the side. The only thing that changes. All right, so for you guys, I want you guys to, in lab 4, you should have a space in your notes. So I want to flip to chapter 2 notes. You have a space in there for the back page. Not the very back page, but the kind of right in the middle. Oh, they're not doing this. Oh, yeah, there it is. Very bottom. Yeah. So if you flip back the page, there's a big gap. So if you go from the back, you flip back one page, the very bottom of the 1, 2, 3, the 4th page should be a giant gap at the bottom of the page for lab problem 4. In there, I want you guys to do a frequency polygon for the data from this last quiz. So it means you need to find the midpoints for them. So how do you find the midpoints? You take the class, your class width. So 15 to 19 is your first class limits. Sorry, you take your class limits, 15 to 19, and you're going to average them. So I'm going to take 15 and 19. If I average 15 and 19, how'd you do it? You add them up, divide by 2, because there's 2 of them. That's your first class midpoint. It will not have a decimal point as it did. This one won't. Yes. Oh, you can use boundaries, either one. I don't care. Boundaries or the limits, either one's fine. They both work. You know what? Find your midpoints. Here's your first midpoint, just as a hint. So there's your first midpoint. Find all your other midpoints. Then use your frequencies